I pray that I never block my own blessings. I've seen people do it and it's painful to watch. May ego, pride, revenge, jealousy, pettiness, or any other negative behavior never get in the way of me accessing good things. And that is a tweet by Tony Tone. Woo! Woo! That was a powerful tweet. That was a powerful tweet. And I'm glad I got the opportunity to read it as the opening of this episode of the Toy Talks podcast. Welcome, 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 returning listeners, new listeners, and those of you who are unsure about me but continue listening, welcome. I don't even know where to start. First of all, if I sound a little off, it's because my immune system is having a battle. Unfortunately, you can't say you're unwell without caveating the fact that you don't have COVID. It's just the weirdest thing ever. And even if you just have a cold, you're still expected to do a COVID test, because I get all of that. But I feel like we need to normalise the fact that it's still normal to have a cold or a flu or to be run down in your body. Basically test the parameters of your immune system. And that's exactly what's happening to me. I definitely feel very run down. There's been a lot going on in my life at the moment. There's still a lot going on. I'm really, really busy. And as we go, as we enter the last quarter of the year, I definitely am looking forward to having some downtime over Christmas and really just being able just to sit in the greatness that has been 2021, and also as well celebrate my wins and look forward to 2022 and planning what that will look like. I shared as well this week on my Instagram stories. I'm very active on Instagram. For those of you who do not know, make sure you go ahead and follow me, Toya_Washington. And I spoke about vision boards, and I actually did save that Insta stories because I thought it's quite important, and I'm definitely going to repost it. In that, usually around this time, I start thinking about my vision board for 2022, the things that maybe I haven't been able to accomplish this year because I'm still laying the foundation for, or I had too many pots on the stove, and therefore I will need to take like one or two things into 2022. But the reason I talk about this is I think it's really important that we all start thinking about what we would like 2022 to look like for us. January breeds the whole New Year's resolution, but I guarantee you by, I don't know, May, no one's talking about New Year's resolution. It's this kind of like, I don't know, this weird thing about everybody looking really forward to 2022, having all these resolutions, but not having any follow through or accountability. And that's where, for me, my vision board comes into place. I do have a podcast episode about vision boards and manifestation and the power of spirituality and being able to manifest things that you want to happen for yourself, but also holding yourself accountable by having a vision board and having something that you get to look at and see every single day, from January right through to December. I will repost it. I'll probably repost it on Tuesday around the same time I release this episode. So yeah, I'm just thinking about 2022, trying to battle this. I don't know, I don't even think it's a cold. I literally just think my body's run down, and it could manifest into a cold if my immune system doesn't do what it's supposed to do. But my immune system understands the assignment. So as I go into next week, obviously I have the next few weeks speaking events, remote, face-to-face, in-person events. So I am very, very busy, and I'm having to prep for them. One of them is a panel discussion, and ordinarily you would think, right, you don't prepare for a panel, but you do, because there's some key messages that I want to communicate, and therefore it's important that I prep, even if it's just around certain things that I definitely want to leave with the audience. I have, and I don't know if I mentioned it on here, but if I haven't, I'm going to mention it now. I am so blessed and fortunate to have been given the opportunity by a Black queen who is an avid listener of the Toy Talks podcast and a massive, massive fan of the Toy Talks platform. And I've been invited to speak at, I think it's like keynote speaker. Am I not the keynote speaker? Is that not what it is? Yeah. At Kingston University. So I'm really looking forward to it because it's my first university. And it's a great opportunity to go into these universities before a lot of these young queens go into the world of work. But equally, those people already in the world of work at university get to benefit from the things that I will be discussing, teaching, advising and educating on. And it's the irony is that I actually applied for Kingston University to study law, and I was rejected. So it's come full circle in that I'm going there and being invited to speak to Kingston University Students' Union, and the fact that God has created this opportunity and the ancestors have aligned this is amazing, and I feel so blessed. And I don't think it's kind of hit me yet. I think what usually happens is I get these great opportunities and it doesn't hit me in the moment, which I think is quite good, because then you become overwhelmed. But a day or two, or maybe a week later, or maybe at the end of the year when I'm reviewing the year, it hits me, oh my God, I actually did this. And I definitely, when I think about Toy Talks and kind of making sure that I continue on this journey and, you know, create an opportunity for people to learn something new each and every time you engage, is a gift. And it's a gift that I take really seriously. I also understand that I have a role as a role model. I'm considered a role model, and it's something I always used to run away from because of the responsibility it came with. But I quickly realised that I'm on my ministry, this is my destiny, and seeing black women navigating the world of work successfully, seeing successful black women in spaces where we're not used to seeing ourselves, is so important to me. So if I can contribute to that through the platform, then I am not only willing to be a role model, I embrace it, and it's a role that I take very, very seriously. It actually leads me to a topic I want to talk about, and I'm going to keep it light touch, hoping that people understand what I'm saying and not wanting to overflog the issue. I think it's really important that we are very careful about the information we consume on social media. We spend half of our lives on social media, let's be honest. If it's not YouTube, it's Snapchat. If it's not Snapchat, it's Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. I spend a lot of time on TikTok. I find it quite relaxing. And I think there are people who are quite disingenuous, who purport certain things but actually lead a separate life. And whilst that is up to them, I think what is disingenuous is understanding your audience, and, you know, where maybe you have people who are quite impressionable and still developing discernment. I think as a role model, it's important that if you're going to paint a picture, you paint the whole picture. I'm very honest and very transparent, and I know that it's I don't see it as something that everybody can be. I know part of it comes from being comfortable in your own skin and in who you are. In my life, I've made so many mistakes, and I've been really honest about them. I've come to the table as my authentic self. I'm not here to sell you fantasy, because life is not a fantasy. And whilst fantasy provides escapism, it's important to also realise that fantasy is not reality. And I really hope that you guys see me as responsible, and that's really important to me, like providing responsible content. Don't get it twisted. You follow me on Instagram, you know that I'm living my best life, and I am ridiculously silly. But when it comes to topics that really affect the lives of black women, I'm really, really serious about it. I can't sit here and talk about financial literacy and financial health and then lead a life that's completely opposite. I actually live quite a modest life, in that I'm not one of these people that is constantly in Louis Vuitton and Gucci every day. I'm not one of these people that spends frivolously. I understand the value of money because I didn't come from money. I know what suffering is because I've suffered. I know what poverty feels like because I've been there. You know, my dad always used to say, when you forget where you've come from, you will go back there. And I never really understood what that meant until I grew older, and I recognised that some people go back to where they started because their mindset and their behaviour didn't reflect what they had learned whilst they were in that position. Does that make sense? So for me, I feel like in life, we're all going to make mistakes. I make mistakes every single day. I am a wretched sinner. But I'm really honest about the learning lessons of those mistakes, and that's what I bring to the podcast. I don't always get it right, and I haven't always gotten it right. I think in the world of work, the reason why I have attained success is because I've learned from where I've come from, and my commitment to never go back there has meant that I've been very honest about the learning lessons, the experiences, and where I went wrong. I say this to say that I definitely feel as though it's important that when you are consuming content, you ask questions that are obvious to ask and don't paper over the cracks. Because what happens is when you start papering over the cracks of what you see and rid yourself of questioning things that don't make sense, what tends to happen in those situations is when people then come to you and confess in honesty, it's difficult for you to process because you feel like you've been cheated, when in fact the evidence and the realness of what the person was showing you was always there. You just didn't want to ask the questions because you chose to commit to living in a fantasy that this person was creating for you. Sometimes content creators create fantasy because they themselves are looking for escapism. They want to escape. And push comes to shove, there'll come a reckoning whereby you have to sit in what that truth looks like. And often when you have sold fantasy, you have to sit in the reality of what it looks like in front of those people you sold fantasy to. If you forget where you have come from, you will go back there, because forgetting where you come from is forgetting where it started. Or for me, like for example, I never want to be poor again. I never want to be in that situation where I'm rolling up toilet roll and using them as sanitary towels because I can't afford sanitary towels, or having to count the amount of squared toilet paper I use because I can't afford toilet roll. I don't want to go back there. I want to go back to a point where I'm planning when I'm going to eat 6 chicken wings so that it can keep me throughout the night so I don't get hungry in the night because there's nothing to eat. I don't want to go back there. I don't want to go back to a place whereby I was so bad with money that I would apply for credit cards knowing full well I can't pay it back, or have no mode of paying, or was on benefits and therefore knew I couldn't pay it back, and therefore spending money that didn't belong to me. I don't want to be there. I don't want to be in that situation again where I have bailiffs or debt collectors knocking at my door and I'm hiding because I know if I open that door and they wedge their foot in that door, I'm in trouble because they're going to take something out of my house to pay for that debt. I don't want to be there. I don't want to go there. So I have to learn from those situations and what placed me in there, and know that growth has come from those situations. Financial literacy, understanding, being better with money. I am so much more better with money, and I could be even better, okay? And knowing where I have come from and where I am now reminds me that it is possible. It is possible. And this is what I hope that comes across here on the podcast, that my humble beginnings and where I started is still very much in my mind because it's made me who I am. I'm not trying to sell fantasy. I'm not trying to be anybody I'm not. I am me. You know, my friend sent me a message today and I want to read it out to you. I'm not going to tell you which friend. Well, you guys don't know who she is. But she's a really close friend of mine. And she sent me this message. Just like randomly just sent me this message. Hey sis, was just thinking of you and just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for being your authentic self. Keep being the light you are. And that really touched my soul because we don't really, like, she knows me, right? And obviously she sees me on socials and stuff, and she knows the core of who I am. And to receive that message meant so much to me because it means that she sees me for who I am and she recognizes what I'm bringing to the world. And she's telling me, I'm just letting you know, Toya, you bring your authentic self to the world. And I was just, I wanted to come in here and ask you guys, what do you bring? When I ask you to show up as yourself, who is self? What are you bringing? What are you wanting to bring? I think that's an important question to ask because I never always used to think that deeply. What am I bringing to the world? And it doesn't have to be worth tens of thousands of pounds. What makes it unique is that it comes from you. And I think that's really important to communicate. So I really wanted to say that to you guys. Also as well, you guys remember episode 77, Closet Racist, and episode 78, Picking the Sense Out of Nonsense. I spoke to you guys and told you about a situation I was going through at work. I had to raise a grievance complaint based on sex discrimination, race discrimination, bullying by coercion, harassment and victimization. I spoke about it in depth. I read to you the grievance complaint letter. We spoke about why I had drafted it in that way, the structure. We went through it all in those 2 episodes. So I'm going to encourage you, if you didn't listen to those 2 episodes, go ahead and have a listen. Anyway, I made a decision about how I would approach the grievance complaint. I was really comfortable with it. I did get a message from a few people saying, Toya, you're too nice, was what I got. You should have taken him to the cleaners. Oh, you're too nice. You could have made him get the sack. All of this stuff. And they're right, I could have. But I'm not too nice. That's nothing about being too nice. It's about being strategic. Yeah? Him losing his job doesn't do anything for me. Do you understand? It doesn't actually do anything. And I've been in situations before where the reality of losing somebody's job has come down to a decision I've had to make. And for me, I don't want that. I don't want that on my conscience. Unless there's extenuating circumstances that justifies it. I kind of felt like it was about me teaching him a lesson. Not necessarily for me, but anytime he interacts with a black woman, he's going to think, even if it's a pause for a minute, it's a minute where he gets to make a decision about how he approaches the next black woman, because the way he approached me was wild, mad. The level of madness in his approach to me to give rise to a grievance complaint. Do you know, I can count on my hand how many grievance complaints I've had to raise? And this one was by far the most preposterous one, because the evidence was not he said, she said. It was all based on emails, not open to interpretation. It was just in black and white. His madness and his commitment to harass, discriminate, and embarrass me and discredit me was so strong that he put it in writing. So he made my case open and shut. You guys will know that I asked for a formal apology to go through HR, but in writing, I asked for it to go on his record, and I also asked that he be put on certain courses, and I was very specific about those courses, and they had to confirm to me when he had completed those courses. So he had done one of those courses. I got a call Wednesday, Thursday last week, just random, from one of my colleagues, and she knows that there has been some angst in that team, but not knowing what specifically the issues were. The reason why she was aware of angst is because my boss had asked her to deal with the communication, like to be the conduit, because I had made it clear that with Ronald, I don't want any interaction. Okay, so whilst all the interaction had just been via email, I just didn't even want that, you know. So my colleague kind of stepped in. She didn't ask any questions. She called me Wednesday, Thursday last week, and she said, Toy, you probably don't even care, but I just thought I'd tell you, you know that Ronald McDonald is leaving tomorrow? I said, what do you mean leaving tomorrow? What does that mean? She goes, well, he's been told to leave. I said, sorry? She goes, yeah. They didn't even give him notice. 24 hours, he's gone. And I just brushed it off. However, it's true. You see, I keep telling you guys. You see me, I don't walk or work from a position of vengeance. In the Bible, and you guys know that when it comes to Christianity, yes, I was raised in the church, but I consider myself spiritual. There are certain things from the Bible that I take and consider and agree with. But there was a particular passage in the Bible where it says that God says that vengeance is his. And I live by that. I don't necessarily have to take vengeance. I don't get anything out of it. It's instant gratification, but there's nothing else that flows from vengeance. And you have to you have to be in a dark place to really enjoy vengeance. And that's the truth. When I told you guys, this is how I'm going to deal with this, my ancestors will do the rest. I don't need to personally listen. It would be too easy for me to have said to HR, you need to sack him on the spot. It would have been easy, because what they would have done is they would have weighed it up and done a risk assessment already and understood that had I decided to take it a step further, they'd be left with no choice but to get rid of him, because the financial risk that could come out of a case that I would take up with them would be too great, and they wouldn't want that. So whatever has gone on, he's been given his marching orders. So, you know, it's got nothing to do, you know, I say nothing to do with me, but you know what I mean. Like, this has been open and shut now for at least 2-3 weeks. So we're talking about the ancestors doing what needed to be done. Listen, our ancestors understand the assignment. And there is a confirmation I feel within myself that not only did I handle this in the right way, I was pragmatic in the way I dealt with it, but also I just trusted myself. I trusted myself and I trusted the ancestors to do what needed to be done. You see, this place that I've worked as a consultant, anytime these people have tried to attack me in any type of way, because it has never come from me, and they're all white men, that's not a coincidence, okay? It's very endemic of the society that we live in. It's very much white privilege. It's given very much white privilege. It's given very much racism. It's given very much white supremacy. Do you understand? And I'm really sorry. I keep saying to you guys all the time, you operate from a good place with clean hands and a clean mind. I promise you. It's like sowing a seed into the world and asking the universe to cover you and protect you. And that's exactly what's happened. Every single white man who has tried to discredit me, break me, destroy me, has ultimately been destroyed by their own hands. I've had no hand in it. You see, it's difficult, isn't it? Because I'm a Libran. So we're always looking for balance, justice, all of that. Like for me, justice used to mean so much to me. But I know that I'm living in a world that is not fair and equal. So justice is few and far between. All I can do is make sure that I'm living the right life. All I can do is make sure that I'm doing things the right way, or what I perceive to be the right way, and to have good intentions and a clean heart. Ronald McDonald has been given 24 hours notice to leave. Do you know what that means? Do you know the seriousness and severity of that? Where somebody doesn't even give you notice and say, okay, work 2 weeks or 1 week. They just want you out quickly. What is it that you've done? What is it that you've been doing? Maybe, listen, one of my friends, when I told her, she goes, Toya, it could have been that he refused to go to any more courses. So HR would have probably been like, oh, the risk is too great. We have to report this to Toya, and we're not going to lie. No. Maybe we have to get rid of him. It could be that. Either way, it's been based on a decision that he has made and a decision that someone else has made, not by my hand. Karma will come at you fast. Should you do badness to people, deliberately trying to destroy, discredit people and break people? Who lives like that? Who operates like that, where you feel so comfortable to literally try to destroy and discredit somebody over an email? You can't even say, oh, you didn't write it, or you were having a bad day. How many emails of bad days is there? At least 6 or 7 of them. Don't be mad. He's not the only person that was given his marching orders. Shall we talk about Matt Hancock? What did I call him in that episode? Slithering Hands of Jericho. Let's talk about him. Another white man who benefits from white privilege. Another white man who's been given the opportunity to quote unquote resign after being ultimately humiliated and discredited. Former health secretary here in the UK was caught breaking his own COVID rules of social distancing. He broke so many rules that at a point it was just exhausting, because every rule he broke, you will now use health secretary to describe the person who broke the rule. It wasn't making sense. 2 and 2 is equaling 10. It was not making sense. And then to top it all off, we all saw a recording of him having an affair behind a door with those slithering hands of Jericho. The video was disgusting. It made me sick. Yeah. So after being doused in shame and obviously vote of no confidence by his peers, he initially wouldn't resign, and Boris Johnson said he's not going to ask him to resign. So just listen, in the height of COVID, by the way, this is all happening. He's broke his own COVID rules that we're all abiding by. He's had an affair with a government aide, which, to be honest, has its own issues, because I'm sure he didn't declare that conflict of interest. But again, white privilege. So eventually he ended up resigning. So, I mean, in that situation, I couldn't even feel sorry for his wife, because can't you just see that he's a bit of a... Anyway, let me not swear, because I said I'm going to try not to swear on this podcast as much as possible, because my mother-in-law listens to this podcast. Anyway, so on the 12th of October, Matt Hancock tweets this, that he has accepted a role. So former health minister Matt Hancock has accepted a role, a United Nations appointment as the UN Economic Commissioner for Africa. Did you hear what I said? The United Nations appointment as UN Economic Commissioner for Africa. So, after this COVID debacle of your government, in which you were at the forefront because you're the health minister, you have now been disgraced in shame. You've resigned eventually. You now have been offered a job in the United Nations to go and do what in Africa? Something that you cannot do in your domestic country. You're now going to a whole continent. God forbid bad thing. Everywhere was in uproar because it doesn't make sense. But it makes sense if you contextualize it as in why a white man in this country is not measured by the same standard and rules as a black man or as a black person, male or female. What I find more scary is that upon all of this, he even managed to be offered a job at the UN that he would then accept. So it smells like, if you resign, I'm going to do this and this for you. It smells like, okay, the trade-off is you resign as health secretary and I'm going to take care of you. And in a way, I think it's important as black people that we pay attention here, because this is how Oyibos climb the ladder. This is how they allow themselves to make mistakes or to have a public disgrace and still recover from, in a way that a black person could never. A black person could never do what Matt Hancock did. Be forced to resign, be humiliated, bring his party to disrepute, and still then be appointed for a United Nations position. Do you know how mad that is? Do you know how crazy that is? And we are still going through a pandemic. Listen, just because they've let us all out doesn't mean we're not in a pandemic. I need you to understand that the decisions that Matt Hancock made in the height of COVID last year, 2020, we are still feeling the ramifications for. And just because he's no longer a health minister, he is still a Tory peer. He's still part of the Tory party. He is still very much entrenched in politics, whether you like it or not. And I definitely feel that his appointment was a political move. A political move whereby somebody has allowed this and orchestrated this. Because the only person that's going to benefit is not Africa. Not one country in Africa is going to benefit from this appointment other than Matt Hancock. So obviously everybody is shocked. Everybody's saying the things and talking the things. And within a few days, I think it was like 24 to 48 hours, no more than 72 hours, there was a statement from a United Nations spokesperson. The appointment of Matt Hancock won't be taken forward. Between Matt Hancock and Ronald McDonald, this is really not their week. Oh! And I think it's important that we actually acknowledge this. A United Nations spokesperson actually had to come out and publicly say, we are not taking the appointment of Matt Hancock forward. So effectively, we're withdrawing our offer. Our job offer has been revoked. And it literally is the outcry of the shock and astonishment from people that he can just leave a debacle, create a mess, be a shit minister, and yet go forward to go and work for the United Nations in any capacity. But what people are not concentrating on is the privilege that he's activated to be able to access that. Because no other black person in that position could ever. In fact, I'll put it to you that when you have friends in high places, these are the opportunities that are afforded to you. And the thing is, as black people, as a community, we recognize that we're not always in those rooms. So we don't even have an opportunity to have a voice in those rooms. And the people that do are the people that ultimately own the infrastructure of society. I'm not sitting here saying, oh, he should never have a job again. I'm not saying that. But I genuinely do think that, and I'm genuinely confused at how Matt Hancock can go from disgrace, shame, disrepute, resignation to I'm going for a job at the United Nations. So somebody somewhere made that decision and they had no choice but to revoke it. But I'm more concerned at how that even happened and the person who made the decision that gave rise to an offer, that gave rise to a tweet, a brazen tweet. Do you know how brazen it is? And this is the thing. This is what I'm saying. He could have taken that job and us lot would have never known for a while. At least if by the time we would have known, he would have had his feet firmly under the desk. Why is it that he is so tone deaf that he had to go on Twitter? What did he think was going to happen? Why is it that you're so quick with them fat thumbs to start tweeting that? And do you know why? Where it comes from? It comes from a position of entitlement, where he feels so entitled to that position and so entitled to anything and everything that he doesn't see it as a problem that he would announce that. That is his good news that he had to announce. So I've messed it all up for you guys during COVID. I put all these rules in. I broke all these rules. I had an affair. Yes, I did. I've had an affair. I'm still with the woman now. Don't give a shit. Caught on camera. You saw me. Having a good time. I've left you guys in the shit. Sod off. I'm off to Cornwall. Yeah, I'm off. I'm off to Cornwall. Dominic Cummings, we friends or not? Nah. All right, cool. And then, a few phone calls later, my man is off to the UN. All I'm hearing is pound coin, money noises. He's raking it in. I just think that white men need to be held to the same standard as everybody else. If you're going to hold us to a certain standard, white men need to be held to that standard too. And I genuinely think that this also, his offer, the job offer working in the United Nations being revoked, is testament to the fact that there's a shift, things are changing. And we are all calling things out that need to be called out. And whilst in this situation, they've had no choice but to revoke it, I genuinely think that the public outcry and those people in certain rooms of influence have had to be honest about confronting the privilege and the damn right recklessness of that job offer. So I'm really happy that the ancestors did what they had to do. Ronald McDonald, Matt Hancock, same people. So yeah, I wanted to talk about that quickly and kind of deep dive and have that discussion because I think it's important. And also as well, can somebody check on Dominic Cummings? Because he's been very quiet. When he goes quiet like this, I get nervous because either my man is going to do another WikiLeaks and release a WhatsApp messages with Boris, or he's about to ready to do an interview. Either way, Dominic Cummings is too quiet. In fact, when Matt Hancock announced this new role at the United Nations, I was even expecting to see something. Dominic Cummings was very, very, very quiet. Now, I just need somebody to check on him and make sure he's okay. Because at the end of the day, in this country, we all know what it's made up of. So let us go and check on him. Because that one will never miss a trick. So why he's so quiet, I do not know. Also as well, I mentioned this on my Instagram stories, and bearing in mind Instagram stories last 24 hours, it's not on there anymore, so I wanted to say this here publicly on a podcast episode. So I was obviously working from home, I'm a remote worker, and there was a knock at the door. So obviously before I opened the door, I asked who it was, and it said it's a delivery. And in my head I was like, maybe his kid that's ordered something. But before I had a chance to open the door, because I could see he was a delivery person through the peephole, he said to me, I've got a delivery for your neighbour. Would you mind taking it because she's not in? I said, first of all, okay, because you've read the name. I said, no, I'm not. He said, why? I said, because I don't know what's in there. I'm not taking nothing for my neighbour. Sorry. Nope. No, sir. Not today. Not ever. I returned back to my desk. And then I went on Instagram stories and I wanted to kind of talk about that, but also make people aware of something. As much as you think you know your neighbours, you don't know nobody. I watch all these programs where they say, sir, I didn't know that my neighbour, I've been living here for 20 years. I didn't know my neighbour was a serial killer with 4 bodies in the patio. That's that shit. That is very, very real for certain people. You don't know who your neighbours are. You may think you know them. You may some of you maybe even go to their house for tea. I don't care. I have no issue with my neighbours. I get on with them. I'm cool. I'm civil. One of my neighbours I get on very well with. I really like her. Doesn't mean I'll take your package. The others, I don't know none of those. I don't know you. Don't ask me to testify. Don't ask me to witness anything. I do not know you. And the thing is, the way that society is built, I definitely feel as though as black women, we have to navigate differently in life as well. It's not just at work, it's in life. And we're not afforded the same audience and the same hearing. And when I say the same hearing, what I'm saying is we're not afforded those same things as our white counterparts. So for example, what a white police officer will hear a white woman say will be very different to what he would hear a black woman say, even though they would be saying the same things. And therefore, how I operate in society is that I also risk mitigation. I avoid risks. My neighbour may have ordered a torch. I don't give a shit. She may have ordered a cup. I don't care. I'm not taking that for you. Because let me tell you something. For all I know, you're under surveillance. For all I know, you are associating with criminals. For all I know, you could be a criminal mastermind of the underworld. And what I'm not prepared to do is put myself on the radar because of you. I do not know you. Okay? I definitely think that it's important that I talk about this because I think some of you are so quick to take in packages so that you can be a good neighbour. And when now the police are doing an investigation and break down your door, they're going to see you as an accomplice. They are going to see you as anything other than innocent, purely because they see our skin colour before they see anything else. Please, my fellow black queens, protect yourself. Don't go making decisions and put yourself in situations that you know and I know can be very simply resolved by not even placing yourself in those situations. I'm not sitting here saying that your neighbours are the worst. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying you have to understand, if you don't already, or at least you need to accept that how we exist in society as black women is very different to how our white counterparts exist. And therefore, we have to ensure that we protect ourselves. And often that protection comes from being able to foresee issues and being able to mitigate them before they become problems. If I collect that my neighbour's thing, the first thing is I don't know what it is, I don't know who she is or what is contained in it. I don't know. I don't know whether one of her kids is crazy and is ordering stuff. I don't know and I don't care. I just don't want to be involved. But also as well, if you take that thing in and maybe something breaks in it, your neighbour will turn very differently when they're trying to recoup that thing or that money. They're coming to you, especially if where they ordered it from won't replace it. Do you understand? Also as well, I don't want my neighbour getting so familiar with me that she's collecting my packages and there happens to be one package she takes and forgets to tell me. And then suddenly she opens it and it becomes hers. I don't want to suspect her of stealing my packages either. I'll give you an example. Kay ordered a book during the lockdown and it was during that time when they would leave stuff outside your door and won't even knock on your door, no contact deliveries. Anyway, Kay had looked online and seen that it had been delivered. So he was like, oh. So he went downstairs, he didn't see it. And he didn't see it at the door. When he had messaged the company who delivered it, they said they left it outside the door. That very day, Kay was going to the lift to go out somewhere. And one of my neighbours has said, oh, did you see that package in front of your door? And Kay was like, no, I didn't. She goes, oh yeah, there was a package outside your door. When Kay came to me and told me, I said, she stole it. He said, what do you mean she stole it? I said, she stole it. I said, it's very random. She doesn't talk to you. She barely says hello because she says that you're a black man and you remind her of her black baby father. And now suddenly she's very talkative to tell you about a package at your door. You don't think that's strange? Nobody would actually say to somebody, did you see the package at your door? It's not something that you would naturally say in conversation. Like, why would you even say that? Like, isn't the assumption that if it's outside your door, the person that lives in the other side of that door will know and see it? And why was that so significant for her to say? Because she's a kleptomaniac. I told Kay, he keeps laughing at me. I said, I'm telling you that she's a kleptomaniac. She stole it. And the thing is, I don't know what she was doing with it because it's actually a book. And based on my observation of her, not only does she not read, but she also doesn't realise that us not living here are not stupid. Us not living here are not stupid. There's something about her that unnerves me anyway. Like, you can't be knocking on my door at 9:30 at night asking me if I collected one of your packages. I asked her, have I ever collected your package before? She said no. I said, so why do you think I've collected your package? She goes, because it's not arrived and I've asked everybody else and they say they don't have it. I said, so because I don't have it, then you assume I do. I said, did you actually check with the person, the place where you ordered it, that they actually delivered it? She goes, she can't get through to them. I said, so the assumption is they've already delivered it? She said, yes. And you think they've delivered it here and that I, me, Toya, has taken in your delivery. I don't even talk to you. I'm civil, but I barely have 2 words to say to you. But yeah, you think I've taken in your package? Do you think I'm that much of a good Samaritan that I would take in your package? Honey, don't knock on my door after 6. I would never take your package. I'm not interested in your package. But maybe you're asking me if I took your package into my house because you've taken someone's package before that didn't belong to you and you didn't give it to them. This woman ran so fast back to her house. This is a person that doesn't run. Briskly. I saw the smoke from her shoe because she was quick. I'm not the 1, the 2, or the 3, darling. We ain't gonna do that. So now I say to Kay, make sure that when you do these deliveries, you make it clear in the instructions. It must be signed by you. They've got to take a picture. You have to sign, take a picture. And those people that don't want to sign and they just dump the package, if it's not there, then the people that sent it will have to resend it. Yeah, man, I'm not allowing COVID to be the excuse for delivery drivers to not do the job. No, not when I have this kleptomaniac living down here. No way. I'm serious. I'm not playing that. We ain't playing those games. No, ma'am. No, sir. So as you know, it's October here in the UK, so it's Black History Month in the UK. I know Black History Month is celebrated in America in February, I believe. So obviously Black History Month is, I don't know, I guess for me in the UK, I always say Black History Month is just a month, but it's Black History Month every month because our history is the foundation of who we are, how we started, and how we currently exist. Let's be honest. But for a Black activist like myself and many others, it's an opportunity, like a heightened opportunity to go into organisations. I'm usually busy throughout the year, but specifically Black History Month, we get a lot more bookings. You see a lot more brands marketing towards Black History Month and stuff. That's when they remember that we're consumers as well. Mad. And I saw a tweet, and I've got to read this tweet to you because this tweet was very, very interesting to me because it was by a Black king called Latif Saka. And I've never heard of him before, but he did come up on my Twitter and I read the thread and I thought, listen, I need to bring it to the podcast. We need to break it down a little bit. And you guys know I am going to get to the meat of this episode, but I need to talk about these things because these things are happening in society. And it's important that I bring it to the podcast to shine a light on them and also to educate us about what is actually going on and how we navigate these things. So let me read what he tweeted. So, a PR company forgot to take me off an email. They proceed to call me arrogant and unprofessional. They also said, doesn't he know everyone in the industry talks? All I said is 1, I don't work for free, and 2, I don't want to collaborate on any Black History Month events. A lot of people in PR use their position and their network to intimidate and coerce others, especially Black content creators. Everyone in PR talks. Okay, and what again? Shall I bow down to you or what? I'm definitely talking from a point of financial privilege that many do not have. A lot of creators experience this rubbish and can never speak out because they feel it may impact future opportunities. Imagine Black History Month and this is the rubbish you're doing. This is why I don't go to events, laugh with them and stay declining all ads because all these PR people, especially white women, really be moving mad. They think they're doing you a favour. I can't begin to imagine what financially strapped creators having to deal with. Flipping atoles. I normally wouldn't bring this stuff up. It's nothing new. Black creators be chopping multiple L's over and over again. But I couldn't believe the audacity because a week before, I found out the same agency short paid me versus a white creator with less than half of my engagement. And then someone said to him, did you let them know you're still copied into the email? And his response was, they know because their recall failed. And then someone else said, LOL, there's always that expectation that Black content creators will work for free, especially during Black History Month, just because it's an opportunity. Now, first of all, I need to give Latif his crown and his flowers because I think that he touches on so many topics that need to be spoken about, especially as a content creator. I am a content creator and I have different avenues of creating content. But what I will say is, as I have always said to all of you, that I've often found it difficult to work with brands, especially brands who try to use me as a token. Brands that don't center Black women, I won't even entertain. But number 3, I think that a lot of these brands operate from a place of power. A lot of these content creators have given up working a 9-to-5, for example, and have fully dedicated themselves to content creation and therefore use this as a sole form of income. There's no problem with that. But the playing field is not level because white content creators continue to be more propelled, earn more money than black content creators. In fact, there's only situations where we're pushed to the brink that you start hearing black content creators talk about not getting paid. And even then, they won't necessarily out the companies and PR companies who have not paid them. I really want to do a podcast episode on specifically working with brands. I want to do that episode because I definitely feel as though there's a lot of people, especially as society has developed, especially through the lockdown, people are really honing into their creativity. I definitely feel like for me, and I recognise this in what Latifah said, I speak from a position of financial privilege. And that financial privilege is I earn good money as a consultant. So I'm able to afford certain things. You can't give me products in lieu of payment. That's not going to work. Sorry, that's not going to ever happen. I will not work for free, ever work for free. It's not going to happen. If I choose to do a charitable donation or a charitable act as part of the Toy Talks platform and podcast, and that's what I'm going to do. And I've committed myself to 3 or 4 charitable acts, and that's what I do, 3 or 4 charitable acts every year. This year I paid someone's university tuition fees. I've also paid someone's graduation, and there's a couple of other things that I've done. And I don't necessarily talk about it all the time because they're charitable acts. I don't necessarily feel like I have to or go into detail about them. I will do what I'm led to do spiritually, and I definitely commit myself to doing charitable acts because it means more. It means a lot to me. It means more to me than anything else, because I feel like charity begins at the core at home. And for me, if I'm able to do something, I know that the ancestors have placed me in a position to do so. So that's why I do it. But I definitely think, first of all, I'm really upset that I've only come across Latif now, because he's a content creator. He's got a YouTube channel as well. And I'm definitely going to watch an episode of his YouTube channel today as well. But I like the way he speaks. I went through some of his Twitter account, and I really do align myself with a lot of his ideologies and beliefs. And I think what I found really telling is that I'm not the only person that thinks the way I do. So I often say that in as much as, yes, there's a financial and benefit and there's a great association with working with brands, I will never compromise myself, my integrity, or my business integrity to work with a brand. Equally, I definitely feel that the fact that I'm able to financially fund everything I do gives me leverage over these brands, in that I feel very confident in negotiating certain things and saying certain things and being very honest. And even if content creation was my sole business, I would still maintain my position as being not only honest, but being unapologetically honest, because I feel like you guys benefit from that. I'm not going to sell you a fantasy, and I think there's a lot of content creators that are forced to sell you fantasy because this is not only their bread and butter, but there's no other alternative. There's no other income stream. This is truly their sole business, and I will refuse to ever allow content creation to be my sole business. I will always have a business that doesn't rely on brands, if that makes sense, because I feel like the power that brands yield is to continuously oppress black content creators. And I did speak about that before as the reason why I left YouTube, simply because I just could see, like, I'd been on YouTube since 2013, okay, and you know, I definitely feel as though as I was seeing the emergence of black content creators, we wasn't getting the recognition, the promotion, the deals, the collabs in the same rate and manner that white content creators were getting or non-black content creators were getting. And I could see that it was just disproportionate. It made no sense. And then YouTube kept making it very difficult to actually make money. And I got tired. I was obsessed with numbers because that was kind of what was being pushed. And then I lost interest and passion for the content I was creating. So I left and I found my creative voice in other spaces, and it's benefited me both spiritually, mentally and financially. So for me, as far as I was concerned, YouTube, I wasn't interested. Now, I've been able to grow, I've been able to mature, and I've been able to see the business element of YouTube. And also as well, my focus and my objective of going back to YouTube is literally to expand my brand and also to give you guys access into different parts of my life that the podcast, Instagram, Snapchat and TikTok doesn't actually give you, while still also maintaining my privacy. So I definitely feel as though YouTube will bring everything together, right? And I'm not focusing on the numbers. I don't care about the numbers. I'm more focused on the engagement and producing really good content. And because of that, I've invested in a new iMac, I've invested in new equipment, I've invested in a lot, because I genuinely believe that you guys have made the podcast the success that it is. The way I categorize success is in the lives that the podcast and the platform changes, and the opportunities it's afforded my fellow Black queens to be able to navigate the world of work safely, as I guide, teach and educate Black women how to navigate the world of work safely and highlight the path of our success. Not just the world of work, but life. And knowing that I'm having a positive impact and effect in my community means more to me than anything. So I definitely feel the visual side of YouTube will also promote that, and it will also access new people who are not aware of the brand and not aware of the podcast. And I've always said to you guys, until people are aware that Toya Talks exists, my job is not over. So if it means that going back to YouTube, investing time in kind of investing time, I can't even talk, sorry, investing time in developing the YouTube content, that's what I'm prepared to do. And I'm really enjoying doing it because I'm doing it retrospectively, so I don't have the pressure of having content every week, because I kind of already do. And as the vlogs go live, I will still be recording, right? So you will be looking retrospectively, and I love that for this chapter. But going back to Latif, I think it's so important what he says, because I've always said that, like, content creation, that whole, thing is very cliquey, and a lot of it is predicated on PR companies pushing certain people, not pushing others, or using products to pay people in lieu of actual money that they can pay their bills with. And I think that that's not something that I always found quite difficult. Like, I'm not a cliquey person, I'm very much a loner, and whilst being a loner, I just don't follow the status quo. I'm not the person that follows the pack. And I think that this whole having to be fake with PR companies is not something I can do. I don't have the capacity. I'm a very honest person, and I feel like there's no point coming to me asking for a collaboration or asking for anything if you don't center Black women. You don't center them in your campaigns, you don't center them in your products. In fact, when I go through your social media, I don't see women that look like me. Therefore, how can I collab with you? Like, how does that even make sense? When you start considering Black women as being the objective of your products, when you start centering us and giving us a voice and a space, then I'll work with you. When you are making proactive approach to invest in my community, I'll work with you. And if I don't like a product, I want to have the freedom to say I don't like it, and not feel like, oh, they're going to take me off their PR list. So whether you take me off your PR list or not, I'm going to say the truth. So I definitely see where Latif is coming from. I definitely think Latif, like, actually coming online and speaking about this during Black History Month is so important, because, the email that he saw is reminiscent to the emails that happen at work that you just don't know about. In my case, I started where I am, and I hadn't met my boss, I hadn't met anybody. And I just merely sent an email to my boss just to let her know I'd finished my induction and I'm starting. And when I had a meeting with her, like an initial meeting, like, hello, like, she admitted to me that she sent a really derogatory and rude email about me to a colleague, but accidentally sent it to me. Until this day, I have it in my mailbox. I still haven't opened it. That is the same as what happened to Latif. The only difference is he opened it, yeah? And he saw what he did, and he's been able to use his voice and his platform to talk about it. But I think it's important that he brought it to light so that you guys know that there are people that are sending emails about you that you don't even know. And how you position yourself and what you stand for is so important. Some of these people in these organisations, they don't understand the word no. Latif said that all he did was say that he doesn't work for free and that he didn't want to participate in Black History Month. Just because you're Black doesn't mean that you have to be part of Black History Month. I don't think people understand this. It's the same way I think that organisations were very performative during the resurgence of Black Lives Matter last year, off the back of the murder of George Floyd. I definitely think there's a lot of organisations every October, they become more and more performative. And instead of them to do this from a genuine place and to elevate and propel Black women from Black women and Black men from a honest space, they expect to use us as the token to make them themselves feel better that they're really looking into diversity and they're really interested in Black history and the Black community when they're not. The tangible way of knowing whether an organisation is really committed to diversity, equality, especially during Black History Month or any other month for that matter, is the follow through. So for example, they pay all this money for a public speaker to come in and to discuss, matters of race, racial diversity, equality, maybe even speak about specifically the struggles of Black people within our community. My question is, what happens afterwards? What are the actions, what are the tangible actions that these organisations do as a follow through? This is how I measure organisations when I am approached and asked about doing some workshops or some public speaking events or whatever it is. Have you had a public speaker before? Yes or no? Yes. Okay. So when you had that person, then what was the follow through afterwards? And everyone seems so confused when I ask that. But surely when somebody comes into your organisation and creates awareness and focuses on certain topics and maybe even uncomfortable topics, but you have the interest and you pique the interest of people and people are wanting to really get involved or wanting to put things into practice or develop an action plan, what do organisations do to support that? How can we hold organisations accountable? And this is what I say to organisations all the time. Talk about wanting to make a difference and, having public speakers or outside speakers come in and talk about these topics is a step in the right direction. But how many little steps are you going to take before you take the commitment and the leap that is required to actually action some change? So you've got a senior leadership team and not one of them is Black or any other ethnic minority. They're all white. White men, white women. How is that reflective of the employers that you are employing? How does that affect the development of junior employees if they can't see what they can aspire to be? When I say these things, they just look shocked. No one knows what to say. Do I say them? Yes, I don't care. If you don't want to invite me back, that's up to you. But I've said it and I've been clear in what I'm saying, and there is at least one person in that audience that can take away the things that I've said and it can transform their life as they navigate the world of work as Black women, as we are in these organisations that often overlook or don't even see us at all. Then my job is done as far as I'm concerned. I have had organisations that are really committed to do the work and I've gone on that journey with them, and I'm so proud of these organisations because I've had to have difficult conversations with CEOs who basically say to me, I'm going to have to cut this meeting short, I've got another meeting, when I know you don't. I've just said something that makes you uncomfortable, and then they reschedule with me and I say, have you worked through what it is you need to work through to be able to sit here and continue this conversation? I've had to speak to CEOs like that because you can't sit here and tell me that you advocate for diversity and change, but yet nothing in your organisation is reflective of that. In fact, you're acting in onto the fact that you have a Black woman in front of you speaking to you during Black History Month as evidence of your commitment. That's not evidence of commitment. That is just a small step. The real step comes from actual tangible change that benefits Black people and ethnic minorities alike. I was approached by an organisation wanting me to come into their organisation and do like a workshop, public speaking, and it would have gone on for about a month or two. And initially, before it goes on for a month or two, they had an immediate ask. And the immediate ask is that I come in and do like a half-day workshop. And they offered me £100. So I said to the woman, I said, "You're offering me £100 to do this?" She said, "Yes, that's all we have in our training budget." I said, "So let me get this right. You would like me, a Black woman, to do the work, to present the work, deliver the work, take Q&As, probably do a follow-up. And you want me to put all that work in to do something I'm so passionate about, but you only think it's worth £100. I said, what is it about Black women sweat and breaking our backs that you are so committed to that you think this labourer is only worth £100? I said, £100 is what I charge for transport alone. And that's if I'm just going somewhere in London. That's my transport. That's not the cost of what I deliver. I said, I know my value, I know my worth, and I know what I bring to the table. That's why you've come to my table. But in order to have a seat at my table, you have to pay. And you have to pay something that makes sense. When I told her the average of what I charge organizations, she didn't even flinch, because she knew the truth. She knew that that is what it is worth. In fact, what I do is priceless. It's not even worth that, it's priceless, but I have to be paid. And I'm shameless when I say it, because I don't do these things by beans. I'm going to do a presentation at Kingston Uni. I'm going there a day before. That's my time. I'm prepping to do slides. I can go there very well and do a talk and not have any slides. That's not how I operate. I'm a professional outfit. What about the clothes we will wear when we're going to these places? Listen, if it's not for the fact that I'm driving there, if I'm on the train, I'm working. So I'm not going to take less than what I believe I should get. And I said, and if you think that any black woman or any black man that does what I do will do it for £100, then clearly you have got a lot of work to do. And in fact, you are in dire need of a black activist to come in and educate you. I said, do you work for £100? She said, no. I said, so why are you disrespecting my business? Why is it that you think that that's acceptable? Why? And why is it that you have this astonished look on your face because you're being challenged? How dare a black person challenge what we're giving them? In fact, you should even be grateful. That gratitude mentality is in the bin. I will not ever, ever deliver the uniqueness of what I do for £100. And I'll be damned if a white person will try to undervalue me so it suits your budget and your pocket. I suggest you go back to the board and ask them to release more money. Otherwise, this conversation ends here. Told her. Haven't heard from her since. It's not going to be me. I'm sorry. I will walk away. You don't send to black women, I will walk away. You do not pay what I have asked you to, I will walk away. Listen, I'll negotiate all day, but we're not going to negotiate £100. Sorry, the answer is no. I have had opportunities to work with some really renowned organisations, and I don't share the names. And I don't know why, because I don't have an NDA. They're quite happy for me to share the names and the logo. They get permission before I do it as part of the contract anyway. But this is why I'm vlogging, because I want you guys to have access to that. I want you to see what I do. So as well as being a consultant in my day-to-day, I'm also a public speaker, I'm a black activist, I'm a podcaster, I'm a vlogger, I'm a content creator. I am a powerhouse. That is what I am. And therefore, I will not undervalue my business and my brand just so. Because a lot of us do that in the hope that it places us in a better position within that organisation. But I'm telling you, you cheapen yourself going in, you're cheapening yourself as you exist there, and you're cheapening yourself going out. Now, I believe in negotiation, and I definitely believe that sometimes, especially when you have no work experience and stuff like that, like I get it, right? So sometimes you wouldn't necessarily expect certain things because you literally have no experience. But what you should not do is ever work for free. That £100 is working for free, because that £100 is my transport money if I'm delivering a talk in London. I live in London. I charge minimum £100. So if you're outside London, do you understand? And that's just the transport, not the actual delivery of content. You have to pay. And I know for a fact these organisations have money, because you've got a training budget. You'll pay for this one to come in to talk about team building. Do you know how much them team building people charge? Minimum I've seen is £15,000. Minimum. That's for team building. They're just talking shit, confusing the heck out of everybody, and not dealing with the real issues that divide teams and organisations. They're not even scratching the surface, and they're charging 15 grand. Then you want to charge me £100? Are you mad and stupid and stupider? What's all that? No, not me. Sorry. And don't let me get on to products in lieu of payment. I'm not the one. I am not the one. Don't ask me, because I can buy their products. I don't, listen, that's not what it is. If I truly believe in a brand and a product, I would have bought their product. So if you're now talking about collaborating, what you're saying is, Toya, we want to market our product on your platform because we truly believe in the voice that you have and the influence. And we truly believe in the content that you're able to create that will benefit us and drive traffic. You've got to pay. And my payment terms, let me be honest with you. You see, this 30-day payment terms is bullshit. Those team building, those people that do team building that come into organizations and talk gibberish, be harassing you guys for input and for feedback, or really want to just say shit. Those people, you think they're doing 30-day payment terms? They're not. And if they are, they've taken a hefty deposit beforehand. I'll tell you this now, I do not do 30-day payment terms. If you want to do 30-day payment terms, you will pay me 50% of the fee upfront upon signature. That's how I roll. That is how I roll. There are some organizations that have POs. That's fine. If you've got a PO and you've got PO terms, I don't have a problem with that, because I know how to take you to court if should you breach our contract. But flat out, we're 30-day payment terms, no PO. You're crazy. That's not a purchase order. Is the same as a contract. So it's the terms and conditions that govern the fee. So you may have a contract, and then you will say to an organization, can you give me a PO? And that PO basically allots that money for you, if that makes sense, within that organization. So you're basically, when you're invoicing them, you put the PO terms, the purchase order number on your invoice, and that money is already been apportioned and allocated to paying you. I have no problem. There's some organizations that don't have PO terms, and that's fine. I take 100% of the money up front. Fact. If you are a reputable organization, I've not dealt with a really big organization that doesn't have PO terms, to be honest. Most big organizations have POs. And if they don't, they have to pay 50% if you're going to do 30 days. And I will still, if you don't pay the remainder, I don't even play games. The interest will be rising. It's already in a contract, so you know what it is. This is how I protect my business. And I definitely feel when you have organizations that undervalue you and you decide that you want to work with them for that £100, make sure you get the £100 in it. But me personally, it can never be me. It's not going to be me. And you're not going to, this whole product in lieu of payment is insulting. And I think that we need to, as a community, as Black creators, need to be vocal. Latif has set the pace as far as I'm concerned, and he's been honest and stood in his truth. There are some Black content creators that are suffering. There's one that I saw last year. She wrote on Twitter to say that an organisation has paid her white counterparts and it's 12 months and she hasn't still received payment. But yet you were sitting there hushing, quiet, because you're scared that they won't work with you again, or that they'll blacklist you, or the PR company won't send you any money. Well, what do you have to lose? You haven't got the money for 12 months. You might as well start talking. And what happened was when Latif spoke his truth, we all rallied around him. And I'm sure that organisation is scared. That PR company, they're scared. And you know what? Latif should have just outed them. He should have, because I don't want to work with them. I don't want to work with a PR company that's so unprofessional and so disrespectful that they would attempt to bully somebody and discredit somebody in their organisation and talk about how the PR company, the PR industry talk and say what? Just because you talk, we should be on the floor bowing to you? That time has passed. We're not there anymore. And actually, what we need to start doing is being very honest and upfront about these PR companies, because these PR companies need us as much as we need them. They need us to create the content to promote them. We are their marketing tools. And also, we want to be paid. We want to be considered in terms of being sent products and still paid for promoting those products. That's what we want. It's purely transactional. But I definitely believe it's important that we talk about these things. I do want to get into the core of this episode. And it kind of lends itself to a couple of the relationship episodes that are currently in the works to be delivered on the Toy Talks podcast. So those of you who do not watch The Real, I'm sure a lot of you do. Adrienne, I can't remember her name. Oh, I can't remember her. Adrienne Houghton. She's married now, but I can't remember what her maiden name was. Anyway, she was a former cheetah girl. She is on The Real. And also Jeanie. Jeanie is on The Real as well. And those of you who don't know, please go and Google. Anyway, Jeanie recently did a YouTube video. She is on YouTube. And she basically is married to Jeezy. She was married before to one white guy. I don't know what he did for a living. And then obviously they divorced and she met Jeezy and they got married. Jeanie is now pregnant. And basically Jeanie told her ex-husband when they were married that she never wanted to have children. She didn't want kids. And he really wanted to have kids with her. And she didn't want to have kids. And now she's met Jeezy. She has changed her mind and is now pregnant. So basically on the YouTube video, she was talking about how, you know, she had to make peace with certain traumas in her life, and, you know, she had to work through a lot of things to get to a point where she was ready to, you know, even consider having a baby. And now she's pregnant with Jeezy's child, you know, that she feels like she's done the work. And I believe everything she said. I think that's her truth, and she's speaking in her truth. But I think she was disingenuous to end there. I think when I say she's disingenuous to end there, I think something needs to be said about not wanting to have kids with her ex. She just didn't want to have kids with him. I think she is evidence that even if, like, some people don't want to have children, and that's perfectly fine, but there are people that change their mind. And I think we need to be honest about the reasons, like, a bit deeper. For me, like, before I got into a relationship with Kay, I was dating somebody who, you know, I was with for a while. You know, I really liked the person, but he would talk about children all the time. And I would very boldly say, I don't want to have kids. I would boldly say it, that I wasn't interested in having kids. And now, fast forward how many years, I'm with Kay, and I can't wait to have his child. And I may not be ready right now, but believe me when I tell you, I can't wait to have his child. And we need to talk about that. The reality is, with my ex and with Jeannie's ex-husband, she didn't want to have his kid. Listen, there's some men you will look at and you know that you don't want to have their child. You do not see the man in them that you would want to inflict on a child. And that's the reason. And I think we need to be honest, because a lot of your dating preferences don't consider whether you would eventually, like some people that says, I'm married, I'm dating with intention, I'm dating to be married. But you're not thinking about, as you're dating with that intention, this person that you're maybe exclusive with, do you see yourself having this person's child? If you decide that you want children, that is, do you see yourself doing it with him? If the answer is no, not with him, the next question is it him? Or is it you not wanting to have children in general? Is it him? Is it you not wanting to have his child? Or is it the case that you don't want to have his child because he's not the right person? And I think we need to talk about that, because we don't talk about that all the time. And again, I reiterate, I have friends who don't want to have children. That's just their choice. And that's perfectly fine. It's their bodies, their decision. But what I don't think is all the way honest is to say, I changed my mind when I got with this person, when the reality really is you didn't want to have your ex-husband's kids because of whatever was going on there, or who he was, or maybe he did not feed into you the way you needed to be fed to get to a point where you were able to do the work to then get to a position where you're comfortable to have a child. For many years, I always said that I didn't want to have kids, but I noticed that there was a shift when I went into therapy, right? So I didn't want to have kids, and then it was focused on, if I had a child, I didn't want to have a girl. And I did the work to recognize that part of that is the trauma that I'd experienced with my mum, and not having been given the opportunity to work through that trauma, and feeling like that I wouldn't be able to be a good enough or adequate mother to a daughter because of how I feel that my mum, especially as I developed into an adult, didn't necessarily have the skill set and the tools to mother me. So I felt like I had to parent a 21-year-old me when I left home, and I never stopped parenting me at certain stages of my life. And because of that, my understanding and experience of a mother-daughter relationship is something I didn't want to replicate. Now, when I did the work and I went to therapy and I really committed myself to understanding where my trauma sat, why, how I'd process that information, I got to a point where I was at an impasse. So it wasn't that I didn't want to have children, and it also wasn't that I didn't want to have a girl. I was just at an impasse. I don't believe that, personally, I don't believe you can want kids in isolation. I don't believe that. So somebody who's like been single for 10 years says, yeah, I can't wait to have kids. That doesn't make sense to me, unless you've decided to do it by yourself, and you have people that are to have chosen to be parents by themselves. And I have a friend of mine, and he's decided to adopt and be a parent on his own, and that's perfectly fine. But for me, I definitely didn't realize that I wanted to have a child until I met Kay, and I wanted to have his child. And then when I had done the work to a point where I made peace with a lot of things, I realized that I was ready to have any child that God blessed me with, be it a boy or a girl. And I look forward to the opportunity to experience that. And if my child is a girl, I'm going to treat her exactly how I treat my boy if God blesses me with a boy. Either way, the most important thing to me is to give my child a healthy environment in which to grow and develop as themselves. I want my child to be who they are, whatever that is. And I want them to know that they're loved, they're supported, and they're wanted. That is so important to me. I want my child to know that yes, I can be strict. Yes, I can be serious about certain things, but it always comes from a place of love. And I need my child to feel that love, even in moments where it is difficult for them to understand, or where they're going through that learning and growth stage where it's difficult for them. I still want them at the back of their minds, or if they're annoyed with me, to know, I know my mum loves me. And that is so important to me. And with my boy child, I want my boy child to know the same. And if I'm blessed with only a girl or only a boy or one of each, whatever the case is, I just know that I am ready. I know that I'm ready because I have done the work required, and I'm in a relationship that is not only healthy, but is conducive to bring a child into the relationship. Now, people would ask me, and I often get asked, oh, when are you going to have a child? And I always say to people, when I'm ready. And you don't know what's going on in people's lives. You don't know what it means to be ready for them. And when I am blessed with the opportunity to be a parent, not only do I take that role seriously, it's probably going to be the biggest role of my entire life. So I don't think it's a case of when are you? It's a case of when it's supposed to happen, it will happen. I think the reason why I talk about it is because there are some people who do want children, who do want to have kids. And I think that it's important to also consider, for those of you who choose to have a life with a male or a female, do you want this person to be a parent to your child? That's really important. Jeanie is being disingenuous when she doesn't actually talk about that aspect of things. Because being with Jeezy maybe allowed her to explore those things that she hadn't done before. But what was it about her last relationship in a marriage that she was unable to explore that? And I know that she doesn't want to be controversial and things like that, and also she's pregnant, right? But I thought, when I listened to her YouTube, I thought, you know what, I want to talk about that a little bit on the podcast, and I want my black queens to also be in a position whereby they are given the full story, or at least consider that there is a full story to be considered. Now, there's two sides to every story. Her ex-husband has gone on to have children. He's remarried, and he said some very scathing things about her. And his current wife has said some scathing things about Jeanie from the real. Again, I just think it's laced in, it's laced in bitterness. It's laced in anger in a way that I think that he should have just moved on, and whatever will be. Right? But I do genuinely think that Jeanie is happy. You can see that, and she shares that, she says that. But I think she's also happy because she's in a relationship with somebody who she's comfortable to have a child with, and who she feels pours into her the way she pours into him. And bringing a child into this world, I understand, was a great, massive step for her. But part of that step has to be accepted that she was able to make that step because she could see herself having a child with her husband in a way that she didn't with her ex-husband. So I wanted to bring that here to the podcast episode and kind of talk about that. And I want to leave you with that because there are subsequent episodes where we're going to talk a bit more about relationships, especially as we are navigating work and life. I always say that life is part of that, like how we, enter into different relationships, be it friendships, be it romantic relationships. Understanding friendships is important, and also, You know, I hear a lot, you know, Toya, can you turn a friend into a relationship? Like, we're going to talk about all of that here as well. Because I've tried that and it didn't work, honey. Also, as well, I did have a dilemma that I wanted to read. And it was from a young lady who's actually a copywriter. And if you are listening to this, I'm actually going to read your dilemma next week. Just because I feel like it deserves focus. And I've focused on quite a few topics on this episode, and I think it wouldn't be right to now talk about your dilemma without giving it the focus it deserves. So please be patient with me. I will definitely read out your dilemma next week and hopefully be able to advise you, as well as teach and advise other people who may be in a similar situation, can relate or can identify in a way that maybe you've been able to bring to the podcast in a way that they maybe don't feel confident to. So that's next week's dilemma. Those of you who want to follow me on social media, as I tell you all the time, I am on Instagram. So my personal Instagram page is Toya_Washington. The Toya Talks Instagram page is Toya_Talks. Or of course you can catch me on Snapchat, Toya Washington, all one word. TikTok, Toya Washington, which is all one word. And of course on Twitter, Toya_W with the hashtag Toya Talks or Toya Talks Podcast. If you have a work-related or relationship-related dilemma, then email hello@toyatalks.com. Yeah, so I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to thank each and every one of you for listening. I have a really special episode as well that I recorded today, and I have a special guest. But that will be released in a couple of weeks' time, and I can't wait for you guys to listen to it, because it is somebody who is in business like myself, and we really talk the things. And I don't want to spoil it, so just join me in a couple of weeks' time as you always do, and I will release that episode. And those of you who want to keep abreast of all the things Toya Talks, then make sure you visit the website www.toyatalks.com. Equally as well, you know I have the masterclasses, the CV masterclass, interview skills masterclass, negotiation masterclass, redundancy masterclass, and you guys are really loving those masterclasses. I'm so grateful, and I'm so blessed to be able to provide you guys with tools to use as you navigate the world of work and attain success. Also as well, you'll recall from the last episode, I did talk about doing a remote Toya Talks live in January. So please make sure you look at my social media, because I will announce when the tickets are going to go live for that. So I'm only going to release a certain amount of tickets, and once they're gone, they're gone. We are going to be covering, because I asked the question and I received a lot of emails, so we are going to be covering how to negotiate an employment contract and how to mark one up. The red flags in employment contracts that you need to either negotiate out or negotiate and compromise with, and certain clauses that I get to interpret for you, so you understand the implications and the risk associated with those particular contract terms. So we're going to go through an employment contract. I'm going to mark up an old one of mine, and we're going to talk through it. You guys get to ask me questions as well. All the slides that I go through during the remote Toya Talks live about those two topics, and one of which will be the employment contract, I will send the slides to each and every person that is attending. I'm also going to look into recording, because I know that maybe for time difference issues, people may not be able to log on. So I will see if I can record it and allow people who have been unable to purchase tickets, or for whatever reason will be then able to purchase a remote recording. I'm just going to look into it. I don't know if it's possible yet. Just leave that one with me and I'll let you guys know. The second topic I'm not too sure about, because I wanted to talk about passing your probation, and whilst that is quite popular, I guess I won't know until I actually run a poll on social media, or you guys DM me, and then I'll know. But for certain and for sure, we are going to be talking about your employment contracts. So I'm really excited about that, because you know I love contracts, and employment contracts are very close to my heart. So yeah. Anyway, guys, if you want to keep abreast of everything Toya Talks related, make sure you connect with me on my socials. If you've got a dilemma, then hello@toyatalks.com. And next week, you know, we've got a brand new episode of the Toya Talks podcast, delivered by me, yours truly, Toya Washington. Thank you guys so much, and I really ask and encourage you guys to share the podcast with people who maybe don't know about the podcast, or maybe someone who needs encouragement and support as they navigate the world of work. As you know, the Toya Talks podcast and platform guides, educates and teaches Black women how to navigate the world of work safely, and life, in turn, lighten up the path of our success. My name is Toya Washington, and you have been listening to the Toya Talks podcast.